and welcome to the show. Thank you all so much for joining. It is July 27th, 2025. I'm Eric Murphy, and with me today is Atticus. Let's say hi to... Hey, Atticus!
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Good. Oh, hey, this is Skeptic Generation, by the way.
It is. I'm
Welcome
glad
to...
I'm in the right place. I wasn't sure for a second.
Well, I'm definitely glad you're here. It's been a month. It
It
is...
has.
Well,
It's been more than a month. I missed my week last week.
you did, and for good reason.
A
You
great
were
reason.
you were at Pride. How was
I
that?
was at Pride. It was phenomenal. Portland Pride is very interesting in the fact that our Pride takes place the month after Pride Month.
Hmm.
There's a lot of activity on our waterfront park in June. So you've got Juneteenth and Father's Day celebrations, a couple others. And so Pride was like, hey, we want space to party, so we'll take it the next month. Um, so that's what we do every year. We wait until June. And so I did both days of Pride, and it was a lovely, lovely weekend. A lot of introspection that occurred, ironically enough.
Oh yeah. Any
hmm
any any like what? Anything I should know?
So
Anything we should know? What's going
yeah,
on?
so it's actually really interesting. When I got here,
Hmm.
so I moved to Portland about 4 years ago. From Phoenix, Arizona. I moved to Portland, not specifically to transition, but that wound up being exactly what happened. Um, and so I went to Pride, my first Pride in summer of 22. I had initially planned on going with somebody I was dating. They ghosted me, and I was like, I'm not letting this ruin my first Pride. So I went to Pride, and I
Good.
stood on the street corner of Harvey Milk Boulevard, and was watching the parade. And for the first time, it was my first time like being in a very queer space, a very queer culture, and I was like, I'm not the weird one for once. This is very cool. So that was a cool experience, and I've gone every year since. But this year was special because it was the first year I actually got to march in the parade. Um, so I got to do some marching, and I saw a couple friends, and I had this really cool full circle moment where one of my mutuals on TikTok, I've been following for a year and a half now,
Hmm.
um, had made it to Portland. They had been in Tennessee and they'd been trying to move to Portland for a while. And I know that they moved to Eugene first and things didn't work out there. And so they moved back for a couple months and I know that they made it. And as I was walking, I saw them sitting on a curb with their knees to their chest, kind of looking over and just watching the parade. And as everything passed by and I was in the thing and I was like, that's their first Portland Pride. And
And
I saw, and I was passing out suckers. So I left my little group and I went up to them and I gave them a sucker. And I said, I'm glad you're here. And I went back and I could see like the recognition in their eyes. They're like, oh my God, that's
oh,
Addie. And so I messaged them later on TikTok. I was like, I hope I didn't freak you out, but like, I'm so glad that you made it because I was there. And we've all kind of been there at one point or the other. And that sense of community is so fucking important, especially now.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. That is definitely worth pushing back your SkepGen episode. Having you I'm so glad. I know that when I reached out to you and asked, hey, what should we do our episode? What should we do the episode on? That kind of your experience at Pride really kind of shaped the discussion that we talked about having, and I know
Yeah.
that we named the episode "What They'll Never Take from Us,"
Yeah.
and I'd love to kind of talk about that. I know before we do continue though, I should probably put out the phone number. This is a call-in show.
Mhm.
I so you know what's funny is I feel like I may have overreacted because when I was on Talkie then and even earlier iterations of SkepGen, there was like a lower crawl bar that
Mhm.
had information scrolling like a TV show, and there were titles and things like that, and it just filled up the screen so much you couldn't see people, and so I kind of viscerally shifted from that, and now it's super clean and there's nothing up here. I may need to reapproach that, but in the meantime, I got to make sure that the info gets out there. So 412 SkepGen. That's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc/SkepGen. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. We have a call screener waiting to talk to you, and we would love to converse, be it about pride, be it about sticking together in tough times, or if it's just about philosophy, religion. We're here and we want to hear from you. That said, so I like Was that the full impetus behind what they'll never take from us, or what kind of
I
message?
think
Like, what's on your mind?
so. With we're in July,
Hmm.
and the current administration took office in January, which means we're 1/8 of the way through this, and that is exhausting when you put it that way. Um,
Yep.
we've got to do this 7 more times, and that's rough. So I was thinking about that. Like the last 3 months or so, I'd been like a kind of let me game out my survival plan. Let me try to figure this out. Um, if they take my HRT, what do I do? If I am actually in physical danger, what am I doing? Am I chopping off my hair? Am I trying to conform? Am I putting my mask on before helping others and trying to
Yeah.
stay safe? I wasn't sure. There was even a point where I think for about a month I had either lowered or skipped my HRT entirely recently, just
Oh
because
God.
I wasn't sure. I wasn't feeling whatever I needed to be feeling. Um, but that pride, I don't know. It's put a switch on in me and made me realize, hey, these people are my people, and I am their people. And if they're not my people and I'm not their people, then who are my people? These we've this community's walked through fire together for the better part of a half century, and longer in a lot of circles. So they're not going to be able to take that from us. They can't take the sisterhood that I have with my trans sisters, and they can't take the camaraderie that I have with my non-binary people and the brotherhood that I did once experience as a man. That's not something that they'll ever be able to take from us. And my philosophy at this point is transition or die. I'm not going back to the body I had. They're not making me go back to the body I had. They can take my HRT from my cold dead fingers.
I'm well. That scares me.
Yeah,
I like.
I'm scared,
Yeah,
but I'm
but
pumped.
I,
I'm enthused.
I support you. And I love it. You got to draw a line somewhere, right?
Yeah,
So let it be in who you are.
yeah. So shout out to Portland Pride for helping me find my line.
Oh, yay! Well,
I also found a Labubu at Pride.
what the fuck is a labubu? What is that?
So these are they're called little monsters, and they have been taking the internet by storm for like the last so long. They're from Pop Mart. Mine specifically is a La Fufu, not a La Boo Boo, because it is fake. I
Okay,
spent
what?
$20 on a counterfeit La Boo Boo at Pride.
I need more information. I understood nothing that you just said. What?
It's okay. I'm still trying to get with it. My colleague at work, she's 22, and she has two genuine Labubus, and they're adorable and creepy, and I love them so much.
Okay. I I still don't
They're
understand,
they're
but
like they're like the Pop Mart
oh,
kind of
like
things.
Funko Pop kind of
Yeah, yeah,
collectibles. Okay.
yeah, but they're fluffier, little tummy. They're like little goblin creatures.
Yeah. So speaking of like identity and all of that, I got the most interesting call the other day. I think it was
Okay.
Thursday night. I get a call at midnight from a friend, and he goes, "Eric, you're not going to believe what happened." I said, "What happened?" He said, "Pedro Pascal just came out as bisexual." I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, dude, your market value just went through the roof. If this is the time for bisexual Latinos, like, I'm ready for
Yeah,
it. I'm ready for it." Um,
it's true.
I'm I'm really happy to see that. Like, honestly, this pride is interesting in that, like, I did not see anywhere near the corporate sponsorship that we did before, and I'm kind of
Yeah,
happy about it. Like, let's not commodify it. If you weren't there,
yeah.
then don't be there, and
Mhm.
and that's fine. But that definitely makes it feel more authentic.
Yeah, I always had a weird issue with like Pride brought to you by Bank of America. It's like weird. Get out of get out of here. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I feel the same way with corporate sponsors as I do with like cops at Pride. I don't the oil and water, they don't mix. The community is you have not been for the community. The community doesn't want you here when we celebrate. When you actively protect and advocate for us, then maybe you can come. After you have paid your penance and done the work, we all need to be able to have the line of forgiveness even when we fuck up. So I'm not a big cancel culture person. I think most people are redeemable, which is a hot take. But I don't think you should be there until you walk the walk.
Hmm. There are so many places that I can go with that, and I kind of want to dig
Yeah.
in, but I'm kind of in a mood to dig into anything. So, let me put the phone number out one more time, and then I'll dig in because I don't know if corporations deserve forgiveness. Give me just a second. 412 SKEPGEN, that's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc slash SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc slash SKEPGEN. Our call screeners are waiting to talk to you, and we've got open lines. So in the context of being active with Pride, like a company cannot be gay. Like legally it's considered
Right.
a person in some ways,
Mhm.
but it's still a fucking company.
Yeah.
And so
Subaru is trying real hard though. I got to give them that.
I've definitely noticed that moving to Portland.
Yeah.
The number of Subaru hatchbacks is amazing.
They're coming out with an electric one soon,
Yeah.
Eric. I cannot wait to
Oh
get my hands on an electric
no.
Subaru.
I'm going to avoid so many low hanging jokes there. But I don't know. I feel like in the same way that like if a company cannot identify the way a person can, then what does it mean to need forgiveness, and what does forgiveness look like? Like I don't care if tomorrow Chick-fil-A started the most progressive campaign I've ever seen in my life. I'm not interested. You know, like I can imagine socially forgiving a company, I guess, but
Mhm.
that doesn't mean it earns my forgiveness. I'm fucking done. And
Yeah.
I'm interested in what you mean.
I
Like,
guess my mindset with that is, so this is huge if pie in the sky hypothetical.
yeah,
If Chick-fil-A did come out tomorrow and change their logo to like rainbow and be like all are welcome here, and started running commercials with a gay family or a gay interracial family, that would really freak people out.
ooh, now we're now.
um, and
Right. Well, no,
if they started
actually,
doing that,
my market value is through the roof right now, so that might,
that's very true.
yeah.
Yeah. But if they did that in a capitalist society, I would be hard pressed not to consider voting with my dollar to show that, hey, yes, you showed the thing. Here is my money. The cost incentive. It depends on if you're willing to play the game or not. And as a socialist, that wavers with me. There's arguments to be had and debates to be had. I'm not sure where I fall on that.
Hmm.
But I can see the reasoning that some people would have to be like, okay, let me reward you with money because you're doing something good because I punished you for doing something bad. We have to. I would think we would want to keep the incentive structure relatively similar, but this is all very nebulous and thought experiment, thinking out loud, forming the thoughts as I'm speaking them, which is a dangerous game on YouTube
Oh,
and with
honestly,
recorded audio.
I've done that for a long time. You cat just stuck your whole ass paw in my glass of water. Your whole ass paw. It's the beginning. What am I gonna do with you? Okay, sorry. I'm just that
You need a
water's done.
lid.
I do. Anyway, I what I've learned is, if you're going to be thinking out loud, it's cool so long as you have the humility to recognize when you screwed up.
Yeah.
If you're willing to call yourself out and go, "Hey, I really messed that up," or whatever the case is, people are usually pretty good about rolling with it.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with exploring that, especially while we've got open lines. I already did the phone number twice. I'm not going to do it again right now. So let me think about, like, you and I are different politically. I think.
Yeah.
And because of that, disagreeing with you is fun. When you say voting with your dollar, what the hell does that even mean, really?
So there's a there's a okay, it's gone. There, I was getting myself in my ear. Um, there's a adage, no ethical consumption under capitalism, which I agree
Mhm.
for the most part. I also think that while we do have the society that we do, the economy structured the way that we do, there's no harm in playing ball the way that they're playing ball with us. Like, we're harmed by it. Why can't we harm them back?
Mhm.
So, withholding funds from uh, Target, for example, has been extremely effective.
Well,
Um,
I mean, yes, and like, I'm not giving you money. Does that mean I'm
right.
punishing you?
No, no, I don't
So,
think so.
so if I'm not giving you
If
money, am I withholding funds from you?
if you had at one point been
Ah,
providing me money, and then suddenly I do something that you disagree with, and you cut off those funds, that could be a harm. Could be,
okay.
depending on the perspective.
I think I have this knee jerk reaction because I had an ex whose family was very wealthy and owned a big business. And they treated the idea of taxes as a punishment. You know, why are you
Mm.
punishing business owners? And anytime they were not actively earning money, they were describing it as being punished. And so,
Interesting.
yeah, because the right way to be, the normal way to be is if they're receiving money,
Hmm.
which is insane. But like that's kind of indicative of that, you know, cultural ethic and morality change. And
Yeah.
when I hear, you know, not going to a business as punishing them, I feel like it's, you know, are we repeating the same line that they're saying about themselves? Are we holding up their persecution complex because they're crying because they're
Hmm.
not getting all the money that they want? And if we're not incentivizing a company monetarily for doing the right thing, should we be worried about them not doing the right thing anymore? You know what I mean? Like if I would respect the hell out of Chick-fil-A. That's how you would get my support. If Chick-fil-A changed their logo to a rainbow and started, you know, having queer interracial couples on their advertisements or whatever, saying it's a safe place, and they did got zero fucking support,
Hmm.
but they continued to do that because it was the right thing, then I would change. Then I'd be
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, you know. But if this is just a transactional thing, I don't know if transactional support is the kind of support that I want. And I don't know if any kind of business support is anything but transactional.
I think transactional support is fickle. And
Yeah.
it's kind of how we got to where we are now. Because, yeah, it was really trendy for all of these corporations to change their logo to a rainbow for 30 days once a year.
Yeah.
But as soon as it became politically disadvantageous, it stopped. They stopped mentioning us. They stopped supporting us. They stopped funding us. They got rid of their DEI requirements.
Mhm.
They made it harder for us to exist publicly in the workplace. Like, as soon as it started to affect their business interest with the government, they were gone. So there's, I, it is an exceedingly complicated thing because morally I'm opposed to profit at the expense of people, but also I'm aware of the system in which I live. So there's a very broad debate.
Well,
It's complicated. I'm not sure exactly where I fall in it now.
I think I can set your mind at ease a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it was either it was 2000 or 2022. There was a large study on the impact of DEI on, you know, financial earnings for companies.
Hmm.
And companies that focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion saw, on average, over 30% financial gain. Like their income went up by over 30% just by focusing on and making sure that they had programs to include diversity, equity, and like I don't think that supporting an organization. I think the evidence shows that supporting people doesn't, especially in this circumstance, doesn't come at the cost of finances.
Profits.
Yeah,
No,
profits.
I would
That's the
agree.
right word.
There was a lot of discussion on that in the 2020 presidential race, and in 2024, because Joe Biden made the whole thing of like, I'm going to nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court, and you had everybody on the right up in arms about like, you should choose the most qualified, not just because of the thing. But here's the thing, and this goes into the DEI issue. Being black in America is a type of qualification. To have to grow up with the generational trauma that our government and our society have inflicted upon the black population, and have to deal with the consequences of over policing and over incarceration. That's a qualification in itself. Like it is an asset. You have a very different experience and a different view, and a view that is a blind spot to many cishet white people, just white people in general. So I always try to retort to, rather than find the best candidate, uh, find somebody with a different view that can actually strengthen your perspective. Because if you can have a different perspective and your values stand, your values are probably worth having. But if they can't stand up to scrutiny from somebody with a different background than you, then you might be missing a window there, bud.
Yeah, well, just I mean, I'm preaching to the choir. You know, the
Yeah.
idea that if somebody's gonna say, you know, well, I just want the most qualified person. If I said, why are all these white men, cishet white men, getting hired to companies? I want the most qualified person, not just cishet white guys because of nepotism. Like,
Right.
it's
Right.
why isn't, you know, that argument is not being made. I feel like that's an even more legitimate one than the, you know, what they put forward. You know, implicit in what they're saying is this idea that diverse, you know, a diverse makeup is somehow inferior to what they currently have. It's really, really frustrating. Although we do have a caller. Our first caller for the day is Connor in Austin, and Connor wants to talk about boycotts that actually worked and maybe give a little bit more context there. And I'm definitely interested. Connor, you're live on the show.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, what's good? What's going on?
So you were saying that you weren't sure if voting with your dollar can work. I was wanting to bring up the fact that boycotts back in what was it, the 70s and 80s had a at least a very effective pressure on ending apartheid in South Africa.
Really?
So, well, yeah, that's normally the main example people use when talking about using it as a tool in fighting injustice in other countries.
So how did they go about their boycotts? Like, where?
Well, it's the whole boycott, divestment, and sanction movement, where because of said policy, people in other countries, and they want institutions as well, to not allocate money or spend money that benefits that nation.
Okay.
So,
And
so it's kind of like how people are trying to do the BDS movement in the occupied territories over in Israel, where where they pressure like companies and banks and institutions to pull money out of Israeli companies in the occupied territories, so that they can't make money, and it puts pressure on in a financial sense to, hey, we're getting a negative hit from this. We may need to start looking at changes, from their perspective. I mean, I also vote with my dollar as well in terms of like workers' rights. Like certain companies, I will not go to spend money at. Like I haven't been in the Walmart to buy anything in like over 15 years by now because of, just how horrible they are to their workers and not paying them enough.
Yeah. I think I may be conflating the governmental idea of voting with the way people treat their financial expenditures.
Mhm.
Like, are we expecting governmental change when we're putting pressure on private businesses? And if so, why? How did not spending money at a private business change
Well,
apartheid South Africa? Like
well,
that would need to be a governmental thing, right? How?
it would be on businesses from within that country, and with everyone making their voices heard that that's the reason, like this is the reason why we're not spending money and this, and it's for this reason, then that would create internal pressure from the businesses within the country to put pressure on the government. And we all know that when it comes to money, it easily greases politicians' hands.
So I can see that. Like I'm genuinely ignorant about a lot of this, and so I'm trying to ask more probing questions. I it just I guess I'm just a little confused. I don't know this history, and the idea that like I can imagine withholding your money changing the business's approach to how it treats people. But do you think that they were trying to, I don't know, signal spend your money at this bank because this bank is actively funding ending apartheid? Like, is that part of it?
There are other, like, have you ever heard of Aspiration Bank?
No.
I don't personally bank with them, but they're an online bank, and they say like, oh, we don't spend any of your money to invest in like fossil fuels or deforestation. They do they do a lot of progressive and ecological investments, like that kind of stuff. But in
Mhm.
terms of like, but yeah, in terms of like boycotting private businesses inside of it mostly has to do with like foreign countries where the average people around the world who they all what they can do is like just try to prevent as much money from going into that country. And when you prevent money from flowing into a country, because the entire global system is based on debt
Mhm.
and who is willing to give money to who. Like everyone owes money to someone else. And so when that money stops flowing, everyone takes a hit. And if a country's net income or net revenue, net product takes a hit, that interest and those payments may start getting called in.
Okay.
Sure. Well, and it's the same reason why when Elon kind of went off the rails, a lot of Tesla buyers were like, "Oh, my lease is up. I guess I'm not releasing with a Tesla." And year over year, profits are down 16%. The board is starting to get a little nervous. The stock is not performing the way it needs to. A lot of the shareholders are like, "Okay, well, clearly Elon's antics are not benefiting us. We need to think about a sea change here." And so now there's a genuine discussion among a fair amount of shareholders as to whether or not Elon should be allowed to keep his chairmanship. So, with people voting with their dollar, they could realistically push Elon out of the most valuable car company in history, which is
And
not
it's
nothing.
not just American car buyers doing that. Like all Europeans, it just dropped off the map
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like electric vehicle sales are way up over there, but Tesla sales have cratered over there.
China too. Like Tesla built a whole brand new state of the art a factory in Shanghai, and they're not at capacity anymore because the Chinese market is absolutely turned on Elon, not for any like actual ideological purpose, but because Elon got in, funded the ability of the workforce to actually make and manufacture electric cars, and um, now they're able to manufacture a shit ton on their own.
I'm just listening. I'm sorry. I'm just like
I mean, so my opinion on this, it would be to, so there's a big movement to divest from Israel and divest from anything having to do with their apartheid government. And the reason why that's so controversial is because it works. So the Republicans in Congress hate this movement, and they want to try to make it akin to anti-Semitism because first and foremost, it actually works to kind of withhold money from entities that thrive on money.
Also, their entire state, like I live in Texas, like for years now, the state government has banned anyone, even if you're a teacher at a school district, they have banned anyone that has a contract with the state from, the person has to sign a pledge or state that they will not support the BDS movement. Like that is an actual law down here.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who would want who would think that, hey, we need to do this if it wasn't actually going to hurt their interest long term. So if the corporate powers that be know that withholding funds and targeted boycotts worked, then I think that's good enough validation for me to understand that they work and that they're worthwhile. And that's just on me. Connor, are there any other examples you can think of to keep our audience informed as to more concentrated economic boycotts?
Yeah,
those are the two main ones I know about.
Likewise.
So, I guess the question that I had was, if we're viewing this as a brute, companies don't really give a fuck about people regardless. It's just about whether or not we can financially incentivize them to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. But we should never expect them to do the right thing because it's the right thing. Right. And so I fucking hate that.
Yeah,
everything's a transaction.
Well, I think there was a point in time when I agreed with that, and I think that I might be bristling now in a way that I wasn't before, because I've been trying to divest myself of that kind of capitalist mentality that everything is a transaction. And going back and looking at that now and how that kind of rankles.
It actually is a bit of a scary thing to think of, because like go back to the guy who discovered that if you really think about it, there is no such thing as a true altruistic endeavor or act, and that thing drove him mad.
I totally get that, but even then, if I do something altruistic because I feel good, right? Doing something for other people makes me feel good, and therefore I have a selfish reason to be selfless. It's still me feeling good for being a good person, like that I'm getting out of it. I think that if we are seeing social good be done transactionally, then we cannot pat ourselves on the back for growing as a society. And we cannot pat ourselves on the back for morally being better. We just managed to incentivize doing the right thing. And that's not getting better. That's just, the cards being in your hand right now. And I feel like the other side of that is, because we got this progress in this way, as soon as the shoe's on the other foot, as soon as the Trump administration hops in, it all fucking goes away. Yep. And the frustrating piece of that is, I guess I'm not seeing as much value in voting with your dollar, because the incentive structure is one that is so mercurial. And
take it from someone who's a high functioning autistic person. Like I see everything, like even down to like politeness, as like, oh, you're just doing this because at some level you just want to keep everything nice and polite and you don't want to ruffle feathers. Whereas someone like myself, I find that annoying as hell, and I just prefer you to be honest to my face, no matter how hard it is. But to me, it's just like, everything's a transaction. Like I said, I brought up polite stuff. I call that social currency because you're trying to build repertoire for a certain reaction from others.
I can see that. It looks like Atticus is having some technical issues, so I'm going to keep an eye on that and bring Atticus back in as soon as they're available. In the meantime, though, Connor, thank you so much for calling in. We've got 2 more calls on the line. I'm happy. As soon as the first person calls in, the floodgates open, and I really, really appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, talk to you later.
Take care. Atticus is back.
I'm back.
Hello.
My Wi-Fi's weird. Sorry, guys.
That the nature of a live show. Okay, so oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, do you have Call-In Studio open? If not, that's okay.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
No. Okay, so do you want to take a call about DEI or about All right, Christian, we're going to get to you, but right now we're going to take Jay in Florida. Jay, you're live on the show.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey.
Doing well.
I'm just bitter, and I'm just like being a doomer online like I am every week. But I'm constantly surprised and uplifted by this incredible community. So I'm grateful for it. What's on your... We lost Atticus again, but I'm going to keep this going.
Oh, no.
It's okay. I'm going to get you in the lower third right now. Atticus is back. He, him, right? That's the downside to hosting live. All right. So I've got you in the lower third. What's up? What's on your mind?
So it was a couple things, and it relates to just what you were talking about before.
Mhm.
I know you mentioned Subaru, and I have to say before I forget it, being popular in Portland. There's like a reason for that. I think it was about the 80s or 60s when Subaru sales were falling. They kind of unintentionally marketed towards lesbians. They were trying to market to gays, but it ended up being more appealing to lesbians. You know, the ones who go out in the world and be hiking and all that.
Mhm.
And from that, it kind of just stuck in the community that Subaru, as I call them, is a car that kind of supports the community. They kind of do, but not hard. They're really soft with their support. So they're trying not to offend everybody else.
I do. So you know what that actually reminds me of? I was on Reddit because I'm a millennial, and
Yeah.
one of the subreddits that I go to is r/2x chromosomes, which by the way is incredibly trans inclusive. So it's a weird misnomer of a name, but regardless, they were talking about buying cars and how, you know, they're sharing this frustration around how anytime somebody went with a male friend or a husband or whatever the case is, that these at these car dealerships, they're always directing their attention to,
Right.
you know, the penis.
Yeah. The penis,
Even if the penis isn't buying the car, it
Right.
consistently happens. And then I'm reading down the comments, and then Subaru comes up. And yeah, I absolutely saw that. There, people were like, "Oh no, I went to Subaru and they actually talked to me and didn't try and focus on my husband. They just talked to me because I said I was interested in a car, and they were really good at it." So I that definitely smacks of a different kind of culture. You know, one that isn't trying to perform, "Hey, look at me, I'm trying to do the right thing for your money," but one of recognizing who their customers are and treating them like people.
Correct.
So just to correct the record on how they started marketing to lesbians, it wasn't like it did incidentally end up that the lesbians were buying their cars at first, but they were trying to figure out how to increase sales. So they broke down their sales figures by demographic, age, income bracket, gender, etc. And it just eventually they put together 2 and 2 together that a lot of high-income single women who work in jobs that are not necessarily feminine were buying their products, and they were able to put 2 and 2 together. And so they did subtly start marketing it, but not because they were abashed about it, but because they didn't want to scare off the rest of the clientele in the 90s and 2000s. So it was really kind of like a a wink and a nod kind of deal, because something that the gays would definitely catch, but the straights would not catch in the slightest. And then the lesbians were like, oh, we're seen. They know us. And so they were like, let me vote with my dollar. And then that's kind of
Yeah.
what got the cycle going.
So it was financially incentivized again, not 'cause-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I hate companies. I just want you both to
I do
know.
too, but I love Subaru.
Like both of you as people, I love that I get to be in a community that's small and tight knit enough that Jay, I know you and I have talked plenty of times before. I got to tell you both. I hate companies. I hate that that's the fact. But fair enough. So
I agree.
I do want to kind of bring us back into you wanting to talk about DEI.
Right.
And
I agree, but this also goes into the larger part that I was thinking of, because when I'm speaking of DEI, I'm thinking about how it actually relates to the world that we're in, the reality of the world that we're in, what equity itself really is, and to throw the free association in there, people can vote with their dollars, even if voting with those dollars would be to their own detriment, right? Um, so I think that how we look at DEI currently might need to be adjusted. I'm not saying it's bad or it needs to be completely replaced, but I think that we need to do less of the voting with our dollars and actually finding the companies that actually even it's unintentional, like Subaru, because I think Subaru is a good example. They unintentionally found it and they went, okay, we're going to go with it. These people buy our cars. We have no issues with them. We're going to go with it. We're going to run with it. And we need to support those companies more instead of the companies that just come around during Pride and say, oh, yeah, we'll give you $100,000. We'll put up a rainbow flag or whatever. Those that kind of actually really mean it to some extent and not only look for the financial portion of it, if that makes sense.
so
I mean, that's because of the game we're in. I don't necessarily like the game we're in.
No.
I'm just saying that because that's just the game we're in.
You're just talking about the fact of the matter.
Yeah.
I guess let me think about this, because I think I've interacted with DEI as a concept in companies as an active thing, not necessarily an existing cultural thing within a company, but a intentional put into place thing. And speaking about it as oh no, this is just, the culture of it, is that DEI? And when you say that we need to change DEI a little bit, tell me a bit more about that. What do you mean?
Okay. So how people generally think of DEI is we're gonna hire the next black guy that walks in the door, kind of, right? Or we need to hire 10 black people because we have 80 white people in the store. Not necessarily going and saying this person meets all the requirements of everything we're looking for. They just end up being black. That's not the main consideration, right? Because I was talking to a friend of mine, white male cis, and he had an issue with DEI. And when I explained to him that if we're looking at the person based on their qualifications and they just happen to be black, that's not the consideration we look at first. Then what's the issue? And he was like, no, I don't have an issue with that. I'm like, that's how DEI should work. It should level the playing field so that you take the person's race or whatever out of it. You look at their qualifications. You say this person is well qualified, and you choose them for the job. But how it's done is you look at the qualifications and then you look at the race and say, oh, yeah, we need to hire a black guy. So we'll use this black person in there to kind of fill that quota instead of actually looking at the person's qualifications. We look at the Supreme Court justice that was nominated by Biden. She's extremely qualified, but everybody just thinks it's because of her race and because she's a woman why she got the job. But that's not the case.
I think that's kind of indicative of the systemic issue, though, right? So I think that the idea that people have been getting hired because they're qualified in the first place is ridiculous. Anybody who's worked, like from what I've seen and from what I've experienced, when it comes to the business world, you're not hiring the most qualified. You're hiring somebody's kid. you're hiring somebody you went to college with. You're hiring somebody that you know that, like, that there's a preference more toward that than towards qualification. And so the idea that DEI is necessarily like shifting that, I don't know. I feel like in the past, the people who would get the opportunity to apply and interview at these things are already have an inside track. And so I don't know. I think, yes, all things being the same, you know, I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought. I'm trying to say what's on my mind, and I think I'm not coming to like a satisfactory conclusion here.
That's okay. I think I get you, because when you get for certain jobs, like
Mhm.
someone who is a CEO, they don't necessarily go through the same interview trends that everybody else will go through. They may know someone who founded the company, or they know someone who's associated with the company, and they go, "Oh yeah, Jim's great. He just came out of Harvard, yada yada yada," and they end up getting the job. They don't necessarily have a track record of being in the company or taking part of the company. They just know the right people, right? Um, I see the same thing happening for like those positions, but not necessarily the smaller positions. Smaller positions may end up going through the same interview kind of trend.
Sure.
But I do still think it's an issue though, because like the more you know people, the more you have those connections with people, the easier it is for you to get other jobs, which I think you're right is indicative of the issue with the system itself. We're not really looking at qualifications of people. We're looking at, oh yeah, I know this guy, he's great, he'll fit in, he won't rock the boat, we can hire him, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really like.
And I don't know. I've seen DEI handled a lot differently from company to company as well. You know, the things that I liked the most were, hey, you know, we have a group that meets once a week and it's just talking about queer issues, you know, or it's just talking about, you know, if there's like a significant, you know, Asian population in the company, that they all get together and go, hey, you know, how can we, you know, celebrate those things that make us who we are,
Mhm.
in this context.
I think those are the honest ones that I would like to see more of. I
Mhm.
don't see more of that in companies or in general. It just seemed to be treated as, oh, this is something I have to do because of whatever reason, and I do it. It's not honestly treated as something to engage with the community, learn about the community, and help to develop the community. It's still,
Because that's fundamentally different from a quota system, right?
yeah, right.
Something we should touch on is
Yeah.
the fact that diversity, equity, and inclusion have always been about, hey, this person's qualified and they're also Black or Mexican or a woman or trans or gay. They would make a good addition to the team, and not about a quota system. But most people understand it as such, as designed, because those on the right who are racially motivated want you to think that. They've put a lot of time and a lot of effort into making sure that that's what people think DEI is, because they want to make sure that those darn brown people are taking your jobs because of their skin color. The left doesn't care about you; they care about other people.
Yeah.
That's how they keep their base. So that's by design that most people think that, and just something for food for thought for the audience to think on as we continue.
True.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
We are definitely arguing the topic on their terms. So that's a good call.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
call out.
I really wish we could shift it though to argue it on the actual terms of it, because when we take those parts away from it, we have a real honest conversation. Like I was talking with my friends, the same guy, and once I stripped most of those points away, he didn't have an issue with the concept. He wanted those things to happen, and I was just like, then I don't get why you had that aversion to it before. It's just weird.
Yeah. I think
Misinformation is by nature easy to spread, easy to lie about, and easy to keep manipulating. It's like a game of telephone. So that we could try to dismantle all of this, but the fact is that the right has a larger media apparatus than the left does, and they have a higher propensity and less care for the truth, a higher propensity for lying and less care for the truth than the left as well. That's one of the left's biggest weaknesses. We try to argue it on their terms. They move the goalposts and we meet them where they're at because we're ready to fight, and then they move the goalposts again, and then we're caught off guard.
Yeah.
And I think they are onto something that we do need to recognize. And that is, I think they see performative allyship, and I think that they view all allyship as performative because they're fucking bigots. But when they see that, I think that on the left we tend to pretend that that's not the case. If you're an ally, then you're an ally. But if you're doing something because you want the pat on the back, then yeah, no, you're fucking up. Like if you're meeting a quota because you want a pat on the back, you're not doing it because you want to live in a diverse world. You're doing it because you want to put a feather in your cap and get, kudos for it. And I think that may be at the core of that. It's not entirely untrue. They're just speaking about it in a way that we're not engaging with, right? Yeah. And I think that when they do bring that up, the quota system, maybe we should just respond with, hey, that's a great conversation. Let's talk about performative allyship and what that means and what our motivations are. But that said, I think, I appreciate you calling, Jay. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. There's one other thing I wanted to add. Yeah. I don't think anyone in our community should ever shop at Target or Target ever again, because they knew what their customer base was, and they waited until the customer base says, no, screw you because of this, to actually try to target, to market towards them.
Well, but doesn't that fly in the face of what we talked about earlier, right? Like if they're not doing the right thing because it's the right thing, but we should only expect a company to do a thing when it's financially advantageous to them, then why wouldn't they pull their support of the LGBT community as soon as it wasn't financially advantageous? Like, we should expect that, right?
So the difference to me is that in the case of Target, they were well aware of it and they didn't make any change, kind of like Subaru made some changes to say, hey, we support you, kind of subtly. There wasn't even that subtle trance or change with Target. They just didn't do anything. But when they started to realize they were losing because of it, then they tried to shift. So for me, it was more extremely money-based for Target and more subtle for Subaru to go, hey, we know you exist. We realize you're one of our customers, and we respect you. Instead of going, oh yeah, we want your money.
I mean,
I think there's an interesting conversation to be had there. I think it's a leadership thing. I don't necessarily think it's a company thing or a brand thing. I think if leadership changed and they started doing the things that everybody had kind of loved them for, which is decently stocked shelves, well staffed cashiers, clean stores, affordable prices, and some gay stuff during Pride Month on the side. Who's to say that I wouldn't vote with my dollar again? This is a crazy comparison to make, and I'm well aware of it. But people buy VWs all the time. And they are brand loyal to VWs, even with their origins.
That too.
Okay, I feel like we're having our cake and eating it too, and I don't like this. I'm getting really fucking frustrated here, because either we're going to treat this as an economic thing, and voting with your dollar means that you are depending only on financial compensation to push a company to do the right thing. And if that's the case, then of course that's what Target did. We should not blame them. They're just being this, fickle, mercurial, following the trend wherever it can go, because that's all we ever expected of them. But if we are now saying we should never shop at Target again, then all of a sudden we're not voting with our dollar, because we're not incentivizing or disincentivizing things.
Right.
We are removing it because we are now viewing that as, what moral decisions have you made? Where is your backbone? What do you stand behind? Why do we give a fuck about what they stand behind if voting with your dollar matters? I feel like if you care at all about what they stand behind, voting with your dollar makes no sense. Because what you're doing is
you're concerned about
right?
the moral stance of a company, a company that pays people based on how little they can pay them, and provides the benefits based on how little those are going to cost the shareholders, and how much extra profit can we squeeze from the consumers when inflation is at an all-time high and tariffs are coming in and people are already being paid historically low wages. You can't have any sort of moral barometer in the capitalist system. It does not work. So my perception and my stance, I think, may be firming up here. Play the game. Play their game. Vote with your dollar. I go to Costco now for basically all of my shit. I moved my pharmacy from Target. I go to Costco. I pay more than double what I used to pay for my HRT at Costco than I did at Target. I pay over $100 for a 3-month supply of estrogen now, and that's fine.
Amazing.
Like I have the ability to afford it relatively comfortably. It's not. It hurts when I pay for it, but it doesn't break me, and I'm fine with that because it's not going to Target. And if they were to change, I might do it because it's more convenient for me, and there's a Target closer to me than there is a Costco.
Well, I mean, if the concern, like, if we are just relying on incentivizing them financially to do the right thing, and there's no moral anything about it, it's just following the finance. Then
it depends on what your stance is. My stance is a lot of social stances are based on the enforcement mechanism. So if we are seeing pride and queerness and transness being broadcast like it's no big deal, then it is no big deal. It is what we make it. And notice how it started to become a little taboo when the right started treating it like taboo. They are creating the culture that they wish to see. Right. And I wish the left would play the same game. Create the culture that you wish to see, vote with your dollar. And it's not a nice thing.
No, you're not creating the culture you wish to see. All you're doing is, as soon as you have the power, as soon as you hold the cards, things are going to be in your favor. And you need to understand that as soon as you don't hold the cards, things will not continue. Because we never cared about doing the right thing. All we ever cared about was financially incentivizing them. So does that mean that, in this structure that we're now putting out, right, this voting with your dollar structure, that as soon as Chick-fil-A stops funding anti-gay legislation, we should go shop there? As soon as Target, why aren't Target's not doing anti-gay stuff, they're just not supporting it as much. So I don't know. I feel like we're both holding companies to a moral standard. And also talking about voting with our dollars, which has nothing to do with moral standards.
I don't think I want to hold companies to a moral standard because there is no moral standard to be held. Like it's capitalism.
How?
It is capitalism at the end of the day, and that's
no,
the game
it's not. No, it's not. That is a 150-year-old philosophy that only comes about from the Industrial Revolution. That is a philosophy that specifically ties capitalism with morality, which was not a thing beforehand. And even then, it didn't join the Republican movement until the 1940s, 1930s, that you started seeing that tie in with capitalism and goodness. And so when we say there is no morality, there is just capitalism, you have bought the line. And I don't. Fuck that.
Maybe my standards are just too low.
Yes.
I don't expect.
Absolutely, you deserve better. If we are going to have moral expectations for companies, then a financial incentive shouldn't fucking matter because they're doing what they're doing because it's the right fucking thing, not because we hold the cards and we're financially, threatening them. And if that doesn't matter, right?
The world that we exist in, and I want to make that clear.
Yes, and if that is not the world that we exist in, then why are we fucking surprised Pikachu face when Target pulls queer stuff because Trump's now is now in office? Why? No, there should be. Of course, they did that.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's shift the standard and stop saying I'm going to vote with my dollar and say I'm not going to go places that have that are taking this fickle, mercurial moral stance. And it doesn't matter if they did the right thing or the wrong thing, because if they're not going to have a backbone, then I'm not going to go there. If and I've heard this a lot, by the way. I do feel like this is changing. I've heard a lot of people say, even if Target restocks Pride stuff and decides we're going to stand behind it, we're going to put together, a diverse DEI policy or whatever the case is, people aren't going to go back. A lot of people are like, oh no, fuck you guys. Even if you do the right thing now, you're burned. Yeah.
I guess my question is, clearly that's a line. It's a line for me. I haven't been to Target in a couple months.
Right.
6, 4, whatever it was. What other things are we? Because I'm worried about. So New Seasons is a grocery store by my house, and my specific location was striking recently, and they're still. I think they might still be fighting for a fair contract. I don't know off the top of my head, but like we were boycotting New Seasons for a while, so I went to Kroger, and going to Kroger it hurts because like it's a big fucking conglomerate, and they're not particularly good, and they started locking up the Tide Pods, so I can't eat Tide Pods anymore.
Oh man.
but like, if I'm going away from New Seasons because they're not offering their workers a fair contract, I'm choosing Kroger over New Seasons, which like I have a hard time trying to figure out like, oh, this is evil and this is evil. Which evil do I want?
Yeah,
that's kind of where my struggle is.
So I get that. I get that really, because there are quite a few things that you could quite easily get at Target, which I understand the incentive for some people to shop there. For me, like I don't go to Chick-fil-A. I've never gone to Chick-fil-A. I don't intend to go to Chick-fil-A ever. But if they change their leadership and the new leadership says, oh, we want to be more inclusive or whatever, I would hear them out, but I wouldn't shop there, right? And it's not because of the people who are there. It's not because of the people who decide to work there for whatever reasons. It is because the leadership of this company has held a moral stance very strongly that I've objected to, right? And they've decided to continue to do these things even though they know it's like harmful, right?
Right.
Target might be a little bit softer because they just haven't done anything about it, but they can be just as harmful by not doing anything or saying anything about it, just as a guy who rightfully supports it. Right?
I mean, not quite. Like Chick-fil-A did financially support bigoted legislation, so Target is not. There's not. It could be just as bad. Like they really did give money.
Not just as bad, but bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. Saying that, like, I agree with you. I just want to draw your attention to the fact that is no longer within the concept of voting with your dollar. That is now in the I'm holding you to a higher standard, and that is whether or not you have a backbone and you have the same kind of moral and ethical leanings that I do. And if you don't, or you show that you don't have a backbone in holding with those views, then I'm not going to shop or financially incentivize you either way. I'm out.
I think this conversation has been helpful because for a while now, I have been at the point where my dollar doesn't matter. Like I can pick up some, I don't know, food from Target if I really needed to. I wouldn't have an issue with it because I've had really very obviously very complex and contradicting opinions about the whole general thing. And I'm still not necessarily sure where I am on it, but this was like kind of like a good like Etch-a-Sketch kind of moment. Like let's kind of level that and start fresh and build some parameters under which to operate that thought process.
I'm not saying that it's a bad thing on one side or the other. Like I definitely hold on just. I apologize.
Okay.
So I'm not saying it's a bad thing one way or the other. You know, I definitely think that like having moral standards is good, but like just pick a side. Because if you're trying to have both, you are actively preventing yourself from realizing any kind of progress, right? Like if you do fully take the financial piece, right? Companies are amoral and all they're ever going to do is chase where the dollar is and where the power is. And if that's the case, then stop holding them to moral standards. And if you do hold them to moral standards, quit telling yourself that you're voting with your dollar, because what you're doing is you are holding them to a moral standard, right? Like it's not, you know, if you're leaning on the system of, yes, I'm going to financially incentivize them to do the right thing, then you're not like I don't know. I think that
Yeah, it won't be financially incentivizing to do the right thing. They'll just be going, "Oh yeah, you keep giving me money now. I'll keep doing this thing until you stop giving me money."
right,
It's not
and,
about the actual thing. It's just, "Oh yeah, you give me money, so I keep doing it."
right. But if you know things change hands, if a new, you know, the Trump administration gets elected, and all of a sudden they stop doing it, fucking surprise Pikachu face. Well, oh, of course, duh. That's all I ever expected of them.
Right.
So, I don't know. Pick a lane, damn it! I don't care which one, but pick one. I don't know. I feel like, in my mind, that's the more honest piece. But I'd be happy to be called out and said that I'm told that I'm wrong. We do have a couple of other callers, but we want to make sure. Jay, is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Atticus, is there anything else that you wanted to?
For me.
I feel like that's a really good spot to kind of round it out. That they can take a lot of things from us. They can take the mass produced kitschy pride products from us, but they can't take away the community.
Yeah,
And they never will.
Straight.
Yep.
So yeah.
Take care, man.
Take care.
All right, let's continue on. Yeah. In the spirit of this episode, they can absolutely take away our rainbow T-shirts at Target, you know, and that's fine.
I'm not missing anything from
Yeah.
my Made in Taiwan T-shirt. I would very much miss the queer creators in my own community. The vendors at Pride last weekend were incredible. I spent so much money, and I regret none of it because I know it went to funding their passion projects. And like that, I don't feel like that's consumerism. I feel like that's just kind of like, hey, you're really fucking cool, so here, do some more of that.
Yeah, I just. Maybe what I'm trying to do is maybe I'm trying to build some kind of emotional barrier so that I don't confuse a company doing the right thing because it's financially advantageous, and then when they stop doing the right thing, I get my feelings hurt.
Probably. I mean, that might be some of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Well, I think it's stupid on my part if that's the case, because I mistook their what's the
performance?
Not just performance, but you know, they saw an opportunity and they leapt on it. And instead of me seeing that as them doing the right thing, or instead of me seeing them as just jumping on an opportunity, I went, oh yeah, they're doing the right thing. They must have, you know, the same kind of moral or ethical leanings as me. No, that's not the case. And
no, they just want your money.
Yeah. So fuck them. All right, let's continue. Oh my goodness. So we have a caller who lost a family member and is wanting to talk about, you know, stuff that's going on and their religious family. And I do want to talk to them. They keep dropping out while they're in the queue. And so if that's you, please call back in. We do want to talk to you. We do have another caller, though, in the meantime. His name is Ben in Alabama. Ben, what's going on?
Hey, hi.
Hey.
Yeah, I've been listening to your conversation and been thinking about, you know, I've always wanted like a Star Trek type future, which capitalism is highly incompatible with. And there are alternatives. There's been a lot of alternatives like throughout history, but I think about like one of the biggest, most recent ones is there was a nonprofit foundation that destroyed an entire industry, and everyone was happier for it. And that was Wikipedia. Like there is no encyclopedia industry anymore. Because this
Which
nonprofit
honestly,
foundation
I'm a little bummed about, because I do love a good encyclopedia set in my living room. I think Wikipedia would be beneficial. This is just me pitching to the wiki gods, to offer a custom encyclopedia set. You pick like 26,000 of your favorite articles, and they'll print it for you and ship it to your house. I just want an encyclopedia set. I've always wanted an encyclopedia set.
Oh, wow. No, I did see a product once where there was, I think, another nonprofit who they built like this little dedicated, little handheld Wikipedia box that they could make really cheaply and ship to like parts of the world where internet is few and far between.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So.
Oh,
I'm trying to like extrapolate what you said to the conversation, because yes, if we're taking the power away from one, larger group, right? Instead of, oh yes, the encyclopedia is the font of knowledge for these people, but we're now distributing that and disseminating that authority to a much larger group, then in my mind, if I were to kind of take that and move that to the conversation, then I'd say that we should be supporting local artists, local artisans, small businesses, and we should be funding them. And in doing that, we are sucking all the air out of these large mega corporations who are at the heart of this. Is that a decent like portrayal of what you're saying?
Well, I think it's related. I think
should we go? Should we all shop on Etsy?
Oh, well, I think the larger point I maybe should have stated was that so we've built our entire economy on the concept of a for-profit entity, basically an entity who values greed above all else, and we've made that the cornerstone of our damn civilization. But we don't have to. We can make our organizations any way we like. Like they're legally mandated to be greedy, whereas a nonprofit is legally mandated not to be greedy. And then there's other forms of corporation like co-op that have actually equal voting among all the members instead of wealth-based voting. So yeah, I think my larger point was it's like we don't necessarily need to build our society on profit-based organizations, and there are alternatives, like Wikipedia being one. I think cooperatives being another one. Like there's a lot of companies out there that are actually cooperatives. Like
so.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't know if I'm going far afield. You just made this statement about the founding of the United States as a for-profit company.
Well,
no,
maybe not the founding, but at some point in our history, that's what we turned into.
Yeah, I can agree if you're talking about the colonial roots, but the founding of the United States, kind of being structured in this kind of anti-monarchical, set of philosophy that was really, really popular at the time, definitely, does that. It's the industrialization. Dude, it's the that's when we fucked it up. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then how do we break things up? Like I'm still on this, don't
when you say break things up, do you mean like how do we pursue
so right.
Something close to Utopia?
No, I'm thinking much smaller, right?
Okay.
I want to buy an item. I want to buy a tchotchke. So instead of going to Walmart, I'm going to go to Etsy. But Etsy, like 90% of what you find on Etsy is all drop shipped bullshit, white label shit. You know, finding actual handmade things from other people in your community or whatever the case is actually really difficult nowadays.
Yeah,
It's just
that-
my doomerism is coming back. It wasn't gone for long.
Oh, sure.
But like, what steps can we take? What steps should we take in our consumerism and in our expectations of companies? You know, and I feel like that's kind of the through line for the episode, right? We started with what we know that they can't take. And now we're kind of in this place of, well, what is taken? What should we have expected in the first place? And what can we do about it? So we're seeing corporations, right, flip-flopping and we're crying about it. Maybe we shouldn't have in the first place, and maybe we're going about it the wrong way. What is the right way? How should we be approaching this?
I have had the privilege of kind of Portland has this trend where everybody goes to sleep sometime around October, and then nobody kind of like wakes up until like May.
It's fantastic. I love it.
The city is very sleepy most of the year, and then when the sun comes out, everyone comes out of their little hobbit hole and they party. So I went to like the Mississippi Street Fest, and that was very fun. I got a pair of really gorgeous earrings from this trans artist that was just sitting there putting together chainmail at his booth, and I gave $35 to him, and he gave me a really kick-ass set of earrings. They're up in my room. My ears aren't done healing yet, so when they're done, I'm gonna rock those chainmail earrings. But my point is, you have to be involved with your community. In order to kick the tires of these spots that make really cool things made by really cool people that help fund really cool causes. You got to be able to get out there, and that's easier said than done for a lot of different reasons. But that's something that I've learned this summer in particular. All the queer vendors at Pride, all the local vendors at the Street Fest.
Yeah,
you just got to be around. Got to be around your neighbors, because your neighbors are doing cool shit the vast majority of the time.
They really are. I fully agree. And it's more than just our consumer habits. You know, I know that I've told you off air, and I've probably mentioned it on the show, is I found a way to channel some of my ability into helping. I found a queer community space in Portland that wants to build their own podcasting studio. And I'm just like, cool, let's do it. And trying to set up accessible, affordable options for people to get their voices out there is one way to do that, right? I don't got money. I'm broke as shit pretty consistently. So I'm not focusing my consumer habits as much as I'm just finding a place to plug in. And in that way, I guess I am hoping to create hyper local, solutions to things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got way off.
Oh,
Ben. So I do want to ask you, right? You want to talk about nonprofits and co-ops, right? That was kind of the core.
Yeah,
of the
I guess
call.
like alternatives to profit-based corporations, which
Okay.
seems to be the norm we're all operating against.
So let's look at a nonprofit corporation, right? Let's talk about a charity. You can't vote with your dollar on with a charity, right?
Well, you kind of can. You stop supporting them.
Okay, so it sounds like even though they're called a nonprofit, there's still a for-profit motivation that's leading what they're doing, right?
Well, I think
You can
it's
vote with your
more.
dollar.
I think we're looking at it too much through the lens of for-profit corporations as the default and everything else being a deviation from that. I think it's more that if you look at your average person, they have a lot of different interests that they balance. And, one of them is resources. And when you have somebody who's greedy, they are absolutely obsessed with one thing, like accumulating resources over everything else, and that's what corporations have become. Whereas something like a nonprofit, yes, they have to worry about keeping the lights on and paying the bills, but beyond that, they don't care unless they're corrupt.
A fun fact I'd like to share with people on the resource topic: companies and resources, corporations and resources. I am a trait of mine that most people learn within the first couple hangs is that I'm a fiend for Coca-Cola. I'm just genuinely a slut for a good Coke. So, like, it's bad.
I'm kind of that way for Dr. Pepper.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So my general tangent. Being intelligent is preferring Coke to Pepsi. Wisdom is preferring Dr. Pepper to Coke. That's my hot take. Anyway, so there's a fun fact that McDonald's has contracted. They are the largest vendor of Coke in the world by like a mile. So much so that they have had the power to dictate that Coke cannot sell Coca-Cola for less per like gallon than McDonald's is able to buy it for. If they offer somebody else a lesser price, McDonald's also has to have it, which is horrifying because McDonald's has the resources to pay a really high price. And it also means that Coca-Cola is not inherently in charge of their bottom line, which means one corporation is in charge of two corporations, and both of those corporations are astronomically huge.
So
yeah.
If we get the chance, Atticus, could you remind me if we like have time at the end of the episode? I hopped into a video game that has a full economy, and I don't think it's a capitalist one.
Okay.
And it's a shift in perspective. That said, Atticus just dropped out. Hey Ben,
Yeah.
I'm going to let you go and move on to the next call, but thank you.
All right. Yeah.
All right, take care.
Bye.
All right. Let's move on to, you know what, actually, now's a good time since Atticus is gone before we take the next call. Hey, do you like the show? Have you hit the subscribe button? Have you hit the thumbs up or or hit the bell for notifications on when we're going to be going live and if we're putting out any clips? Please do. It's free. It's something that you can do, and it helps the show get out there. Also, if you want to support it, there are always things that we can be adding, and someday, there will be a producer so that I can just focus on being a host. But if you want to see that get closer to happening, consider going to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. That's patreon.com/skepticgeneration. Every little bit really does help. We are not large enough to take that for granted in any way. Atticus, thank you for rejoining. Let's talk to Christian in Ohio. Christian's the person who we keep seeing drop out, and I want to make sure that we get them before they go. Christian in Ohio, you're live on the air.
Don't go anywhere.
Hey. Sorry.
Hey, are you driving?
One of the goings away, yes, I was going to mention that, and then you distracted me, but it is completely hands-free, so it's up to you whether you're okay with that.
Are you going to be parking anytime soon?
Maybe in the next 10 minutes or so.
It actually keeps doing that.
Can you call back in 10 minutes when you are safe to drive, when you're safe to park?
Sure.
I would rather do that and help do my part
no
to
problem.
safeguard
That's why I
your
wanted
well-being.
it to be up to you.
Absolutely. As much as I want to talk with you, I also want to safeguard your well-being and make sure that you're focusing on what you need to. So when you get the chance to pull over safely, call back and we'll talk to you, okay?
All right.
All
Bye.
right. Thanks. Right.
I like how I said don't go anywhere, and then we immediately went, you need to go somewhere.
Well, I mean, shit. Like,
no, you're correct. You made the right choice.
I feel like that's the moral choice, right? To focus on, yeah. Especially when I said,
"Are you?" Calls in my job, and I do the same thing. I'm like, I can't talk to you if you're driving. So
yeah,
I know you need to talk to me. So pull over, or we need to schedule a different call.
Right, and then in response to me saying, "Are you driving?" saying, "Oh yes, you distracted me while I'm driving." No, let's not do that. Let's not do that. We want you to be safe. Please pull over before you call. That said, we do have other lines that we would love to fill. We've got some time still. So 412-SKEPGEN, that's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. And we have a call screener waiting to talk to you, and we would love to pick up from there. Okay. I like the way that this is shifted, right? You know, we kind of started this episode with what they can't take from us. And my bitter ass is thinking, well, we're also identifying what we should not have counted on in the first place. Is it taking
What they can take?
Yeah, what they can take, and what we can and should do about it, what expectations we should have. So as a tangent, right? Because now I have the opportunity. Do you ever play Diablo?
No, but I've had it recommended to me a couple different times.
Yeah. So, my friend Russell, works for Blizzard, and, we were talking about playing some Blizzard games, and, he said, yeah, I should check out Diablo. So I've been playing Diablo 4.
Okay.
And number one, like, it came out a week before Baldur's Gate. And so it lost like 98% of its player base. That just shifted. Like, it became the example of, oh, you shouldn't be like this. You should be more like Baldur's Gate. Like, Diablo 4 was the focus of that. And in playing it, it's really, really interesting because there's an economy, like in most games, right? Trading and all of that is kind of facilitated through a third party. But ultimately, what has kind of blown my mind is they've hit the monetary cap on what people can hold. So if you want to buy a thing off of somebody else, it's going to cost at least 1 billion gold. And you can get 1 billion gold, but you can only hold 99 billion gold. There's no more. Which means that the most expensive thing that you could get, the rarest things, are also attainable.
Yeah.
Because like if you wanted to buy something for 99 billion gold, you better hope the other person has nothing on them, because there's no way they'd even be able to receive it from you. And like I was talking with V about it, and V's like, could you imagine, you know, some finance bro being like, but how do I win the money game? It's like, well, here you go. Here's 99 billion. You win. Congratulations. You have all the money you can have. Good job. You win.
That's actually you just tickled. So I'm reading a book right now called, I'll find the title in a second. But there was an interesting statistic that was brought up in it, and the statistic was something akin to, this is not the exact statistic, but during the 70s, I think something like 60% of Harvard graduates went into research or writing or something more intellectually stimulating. And that inverted to finance sometime in the mid 80s to 90s. So now 2/3 of Harvard grads are going into finance and banking and consulting and that kind of stuff, because we've started to have these jobs that exist to move wealth around, and those are exceedingly well paid, even though they're not actually making money, they're just moving money.
Yep.
And I thought that was really interesting. But the book anyway is Utopia for Realists by Peter Noble, and I've been learning a lot about the philosophy of the concept of utopia, as well as what are some things that we could strive for. Why did we stop striving for these things in the late 20th century? Why has the fight for a 4-day work week just stopped? And why are we not actually discussing the fact that we should want AI to exist to do our dishes and to work these jobs so that we can play and make art, rather than AI making the art while we do our dishes? Ideally, I want full unemployment and no poverty. That's what I would strive for in the world. I want people to be able to wake up and go, I'm going to make a painting today, or I'm going to write an essay, or make a zine, or I'm going to work on this table in my backyard. And I'm going to do this for a friend, or so. I want more
take care of my elderly parents. Focus on that kind of shit,
and make sure that my roof doesn't have to leave my head if I stop everything I'm doing to take care of my parents or a family member or a neighbor. But it's tickling my brain in really good ways, and I like the book, so I think I'm going to keep up with that genre and learn more.
Yeah, do. In the meantime, I think I've been piqued. My curiosity has been piqued when it comes to finance, because really, honestly, the playing in this economy, in this really small, it is not a huge community that plays this game. How can you capitalism when you can't earn more than 99? You know what I mean? Like it's just, and without being able to trade on futures, and without being able to hoard wealth such that you can take things out of other people's ability to afford them. It feels like getting anything that you want is accessible to everyone. And I really like that.
I like that too. I really do.
Yeah. And I don't know. Like, no one there is protesting, hey, we need to raise the gold cap. Because if they did, they wouldn't be able to trade, and gold is consistently flowing, right? It is moving constantly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just a really, really interesting. I think V said that it is more akin to an anarchistic economy.
Yeah.
Than it is to any kind of capitalism. That's kind of at the root of an anarchistic economy is that.
I have heard conversations politically, because I'm also very politically involved, locally, not nationally anymore, but more. I think you can anyway. I've heard conversation of a wealth tax, but only if you're like not moving your money. Like if you're not spending it, if you're just saving it after a certain cap, that whether it's unrealized gains or not, should be taxed, and that freaks a lot of the finance bros out. And I think that's really interesting.
Well, what's really interesting is what if we quit fucking expecting taxes? Like, okay, so here's an idea, right? What if, and I'm just thinking out loud, I could be totally off, and I'm totally open to that, right?
Rough draft thought, ready to go.
Rough draft thought live on the air. This is exactly how you don't get canceled. What if we broke up the Fed, right, when it came to money, and we went back to individual banks issuing their own currency, which means that your ability to secure a loan is limited to how much that bank is able to loan you. Mm-hmm. Would you be able to get to 2008 bailing out the businesses that are too big to fail if they weren't able to secure that kind of loan in the first place? I
think you might be asking the wrong girl, because that's kind of diametric. That's opposed to the kind of like politics that I want to see.
I know, that's why I'm asking you. I
like big structured government.
But doesn't that make a system that has the capacity to fail as spectacularly as it has, because it's that big? Like, if people were not capable of achieving that level of fuck up, then I think maybe we would not be in as bad a situation as we are.
Possibly. Quite possibly. That goes back to so I'm not super well versed on the Fed. Is the Fed the same entity that was created by Alexander Hamilton? Like, is that, or is that a different entity, or am I mixing up my history?
So the Fed, I believe, was more Jacksonian, right? You're getting Andrew
Okay.
Jackson and
Gotcha.
the establishment of a federal bank. When I say the Fed, I'm talking about the federal bank, right?
Gotcha.
Fort Knox and there being an official currency of the country that is
Okay.
backed up and enforced by that. Either way, though, I don't know if a bank couldn't loan trillions of dollars worth of inflated stock in subprime mortgages, just because they didn't have the funds to be able to do that much, would the subprime mortgage market not have crashed as spectacularly as it did in 2008?
Likely, I think. I'm not sure how much I'm able to add to that, but I'm trying to think of like if that had not occurred. I'm going down the alternative history rabbit hole in my head. If that had not occurred, it's incredibly likely that the entirety of the modern world would look very different, because the United States was only able to do what it did because it had one centralized bank, states' debts and whatnot. So I'm curious as to I don't know enough about it to understand the ramifications, but now I'm curious.
Yeah, like, does that mean that states wouldn't be tied to each other anymore? Because we did have a country without a centralized currency, which means that they prioritized other things that still kept them, in step with wanting to be unified with each other. It just wasn't a financially necessary, like, I don't know.
I think the United States as an entity would go from an is to an are. That is to say, people would be able to stop seeing it as one entity and being it. Oh, the United States are this collection of people, rather than the United States is this collection of people, as a multi-unit entity rather than a single unit entity.
I was just corrected in the live chat. Creative Writer 3, thank you, says the Federal Reserve System was created by the Federal Reserve Act of 1913.
That's recent.
Which was signed into law by President Woodrow Wilson. So if we're thinking
the
of
bastard.
So if we're thinking of like, oh, we couldn't do that, things would fall apart. Not really. Like, it's more recent than we thought. It's like saying if we abolished credit scores, we did fine before that. I don't know. I know that you're a big government person, and so
I am.
What's your take? Hit me. Tell me why I'm wrong. I want to know.
I don't know if you are wrong. I think that version of structured finance is not compatible with how I would like to see society structured. I want to see the government use its power for the benefit of us common folk. I would love to see, rather than a shit ton spent on military, I would much rather see a shit ton spent on infrastructure. I want to see like national high speed rail. I want to see public schools looking like fucking palaces, and I want teachers to be able to purchase a home on a single income. Like I want that's the kind of like structure I like, and I think is technically possible with several major renovations to our Constitution, but I don't know. I don't know if you're wrong, because I hesitate to call anybody's view on a specific policy issue wrong, because it's only wrong if it's antithetical to how I want to see the world structured.
Yeah.
If it's not antithetical to how you want to see the world structured, I wouldn't call you wrong.
So let me think out loud here. I don't know if I'm going to get to the point I'm trying to get to, but man, I really want to make it. So let me see here. Hi, Kitty. Okay. Have you seen the studies about how people will absolutely disadvantage themselves if it means disadvantaging people they don't like? Like,
I have not, but I have heard of them.
Yeah. So the first example that comes to mind is there was a professor of economics. I forget what university it was, but famously every year at the beginning of the year, he would say, "All right, class, no joke, I will give everyone in this class an A if you unanimously vote for it. So if everyone here can vote that they want an A, then I will give everyone an A, and that's the end." And never once did a year come by that everyone voted for that. And the reason
There's
why,
always one.
there are several. And who do you think it was?
This is why would you ask me that? Because it's going to expose my own biases. I think it was the conservatives.
It was the A students.
Interesting.
The A
that
students
makes sense.
were the ones who voted against everyone getting an A.
Huh.
Because they said, I work hard for this, and the people who wouldn't work hard don't deserve an A. And statistically, actually, because there were enough people like that, on average, they got lower grades, right? Because if you got a B, you actually did worse by yourself
Yeah.
than if you would have voted for everyone to get an A. People will absolutely cut off their nose to spite their face. I think you said conservatives because you do see that line of a lot of people getting state support, right?
Yeah.
Kind of Medicare, who are on Medicare, who say we shouldn't have Medicare.
That
right.
drives me crazy because I want those people to live,
Right.
and they want other people to die.
So well, and they're voting against their own interests, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's now apply this to this whole localization of finance thing, right?
Okay.
I think that Oregon, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Oregon is one of the states that exports more of its taxes than it does spend on its own state. So like, you have money put into education, and that money is not necessarily being spent locally. It's getting distributed out. I think this is one of the states that operates on the black end of things, and the reason why we're comfortable with it is because we know that there are underprivileged states, right, economically, that need the help more than us, and so you see the benefit of a big government going, okay, everyone's paying into taxes, and there are some states that are really, really hit hard. We're going to focus on helping lift up those states, and so you kind of create this safety net. But wouldn't that be against to the detriment of those states that have the extra money? Am I making a point? Like, do you get what I'm saying?
You are.
Okay.
Just to do a quick fact check, Oregon is the only one of the West Coast states that does not send more
Is
than
it?
it gets. We get more than we
Okay.
send.
Got it.
Which
Okay.
makes sense when you see just how much of Oregon is rural.
Okay, so California, Washington is where I should
California,
have been.
Washington, and Nevada. Not that Nevada's West Coast, but of this block, it's Washington, California, Nevada. Oregon and Idaho get more help than they send.
So I think that California, Washington, at least,
Yeah.
are more like you, more hoping for that big government kind of solution to things, even though they would benefit more if that wasn't the
If
case.
it was every man for himself. Yes.
Not if everyone a man for themselves, but if it was
Like every state for themselves.
Yeah, if it was more state, localized,
Yeah.
they would benefit a hell of a lot more. But it seems like they're voting against their own interests, no?
Yeah, 100%. I think they are too. Same thing with. I've noticed the same thing with like the redistricting question that has come up in the last 15, 20 years. A lot of liberal states want everything to be fair. Oh, so we'll do an independent commission. We'll take the politics out of it. And while those states have unilaterally disarmed themselves from using a very effective weapon to protect their political interests, the red states have been like, you're fucking crazy. I'm not giving this up. And they've been able to lopside the House. And I think that's really interesting because Texas is about to redistrict their maps to get 5 additional Republican seats. And now California, Gavin Newsom, whatever you think of him, he's evil, but he's on our side. So he's trying to push a bill through to eliminate California's independent redistricting commission and then add 10 more Democratic seats, which I think is the appropriate answer to that kind of insanity from Texas. So, yeah,
And I think
I think they would be cutting off their nose to spite their face to advocate for a big government system, but that's just because they care about other people largely.
well, and so they're doing the less good thing because I think you probably agree with me. The right thing is neither of those. The right thing is to get rid of gerrymandering and for people to be represented
Yes.
by, the
Correct.
population and where they are, right? And so you actually have,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And so it feels like what you're saying is if the other side's going to cheat, then we need to cheat at least to catch up.
Yeah.
If the other side's going to do the wrong thing.
Why would we fight a fight with one hand tied behind our back?
Right.
Because we're fighting for things like healthcare and education and housing, and the people who need those things really don't want us fighting with one arm tied behind our back.
So I will tell you that we have a caller, Ethiopagan, who I think absolutely agrees with you. And I think that I've been putting off bringing Ethiopagan up because I know I'm going to get ganged up on immediately. But that's not fair. So I'm ready. I can take the punches. Ethiopagan, how's it going?
I'm well, and you are wrong.
Of course I am. I'm okay with that. Call me out. I'm ready. I want to fight. Change
All
my
right,
mind.
Atticus, you ready? Tag team?
You
Ready?
know
One
I
in,
think
one
out loud. So what's up?
Okay. So you said that you were thinking of a banking system in which different localities will have different currencies. Did I catch that correctly?
So
That's what I heard as well.
Yeah, so I was saying there was a point in time when banks issued their own currency and backed their loans only with funds that they were able to finance. Right?
I just want to make sure I'm then correct. Like, are they printing their own money, or are they just?
So if you went to Wells Fargo in the early 1800s and you wanted to get a note for $500, they would say, hey, this is a note payable to Wells Fargo that says that they will honor this note in gold for a certain amount. And so they were it was limited that way, right? I believe that was the case.
Okay.
No? If I'm wrong, please tell me. I'm
yeah. I don't know if that's correct or not, but what I will say is that there are places where this does become a problem.
Sure.
For example,
Yeah.
in the UK, Scotland prints its own money.
Okay.
There are places in Scotland that will not take that money.
Right.
So what you have is if you have all of these localities printing their own money, and you're going to risk going from the next town over and being like, I have no money here because I don't have the money that they use. And they have the right to not take it or to take it.
Correct.
At that point, you're going to have these walls automatically coming up from one town to the other where currency cannot go from one place to another, and there can be no trade between these two places.
Well, not if one side doesn't want to. If one side says, I don't want to do business with my neighbor, then they're not going to be able to do business with their neighbor. Right? That's... you can't force people who don't want to work together to work together. But also, that would be a solution that would prevent someone somewhere else from tanking the economy for the rest of the country.
Yeah, but you can tank individual towns. So if you're basically saying, okay, this locality is going to have its own currency with its own investment, and are you even going so far as to say that no one outside of that town can invest in that bank?
Oh no, they can. It's just that that bank is only able to issue loans that they can back themselves. Right? They're not getting backed by a federal dollar. They are responsible that they're not able to create the 2008 financial crisis.
So I guess it would, to have this conversation is to understand that while it would have a lower national risk, it would have higher localized consequences. So it depends on which poison you want to take, I guess. And at least with the larger consequences, this is my general opinion, you do have the opportunity to at least nationalize the bank at the end of it, so it works for the interests of the people, whoever the people send to represent them in the government, which has its own risks associated with it.
I don't. I guess what I'm saying is, like, if there is a bank, if you want a loan, and you go to your bank, and your bank is able to issue that loan, great. But I don't know. I think what was the big let me try and bring this back just a little bit. I think that there would not have been a need for massive bailouts the way that there were. And so if the example is that my town and your town don't want to do business with each other, so the consequence is they can't do business with each other, they made that choice. And if somebody wants to sink themselves because they're not wanting to do business with, their neighbors, then fine, let them sink themselves, but also they're not going to take down everyone with them. Like, the consequences are smaller if that's the case, right?
Yeah, but the other problem is that in a lot of these little local banks, or even, let's even take, if there's nothing backing up a federal system, then what you're going to have are these little banks that can go under very easily. Mm-hmm. Or not even be able to invest at all. So, like, if you go into the middle of nowhere, New York, or in your case, on the West Coast, like, there are going to be tiny little towns that no one wants to invest in, or doesn't even have access to any of these funds to invest.
Do you think they're investing now?
I think there's the ability to,
but they're not doing it. Like,
yes, they are. There are plenty of small little towns that suddenly
is the
boom.
System of smaller isolated currencies or this sounds weirdly similar to the state of crypto right now. Like, everybody can have their own kind of cryptocurrency, but not everybody's going to be interested in using it. Not everybody can kind of invest in it. But because of that same system, it's not like a good currency system. There's like two big ones, which is Ethereum and Bitcoin, but the rest of them are kind of meme coins. Yeah. So I'm that's the analogy that my head is drawing, and I'm curious as to what your response is on that thought.
I think that if there were a local currency that people chose to use, and they were able to back each other up and go, okay, I'm going to issue this loan and take on this risk, and it is based locally, I think I'd prefer that to a national bank. I think that you're right, Ethiopia. Like, the ability to invest, definitely, like, you can't do as broad of a opportunity as you would with a federal system. But at the same time, I don't see poor people investing, period.
The other issue is that when there's financial issues, these banks aren't going to be backed by anything, which we saw in the Great Depression when people's savings suddenly vanished because there was nothing insuring their investment or even their savings. Mm-hmm. It was just gone.
Yep.
Like, without like the FDIC and whatnot's ensuring people will have access to their funds up to $250,000, which really should be a lot higher now. I don't see the stability economically
exactly
of that type of system.
Exactly. Which means that you wouldn't have people able to securely hoard wealth the way that you have now. It would be limited. There would be a cap upon over which it's no longer, like, I feel like it's disincentivizing billionaires if you were to do that.
It could disincentivize hoarding cash, but it does not disincentivize hoarding property, and it doesn't disincentivize hoarding like companies or capital. Like you can
really
have
quick, Atticus.
billionaires
Like I would
without
see
cash.
this as like robber barons are able to go into these little towns and just buy the entire financial institution of
Atheopagan.
the town and just own it.
This is the age of robber barons. We have Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos being robber barons right now. I don't know how what I'm proposing is worse.
Because it makes it easier.
Really, it's pretty fucking easy right now. We're literally living in it.
I don't think it makes it easier. I think that would make it very much easier.
I think it would make it a little easier to make the system, to make suffering more widespread by, because then the people with power can just go to the next town and accrue more power because they have the ability to purchase it already.
They're doing that right now.
I don't see that happening right now. I don't see them basically buying towns. They've been talking about constructing company towns, but they haven't been able to just go into a town and go, "Yep, I own you now."
Okay, so if there was a local bank that backed its own loans and was not, backed by the Fed, you're saying that it is more at risk for a big business person to come in and just sweep it up and make it theirs, right?
I would say so.
Okay. I'll agree and I'll concede that for sure. I think that risk is there. And also that risk is absolutely being taken advantage of right now with the system we currently have. So just because it doesn't solve the problem doesn't mean that the problem doesn't exist currently. So
I think we already have an answer to the billionaire problem, and that's a 90% tax rate that we had in the 50s and 60s.
I want them to go, oh, hey, my money is not secure because there's nowhere that I could put it that it would be that secure. I think that would disincentivize that hoarding of wealth.
I think the government taxing it out of existence would be a little bit more effective because they wouldn't be able to run to like a different town. They wouldn't be able to I need to find somewhere to store my cash. Let me buy up this factory. Oh, now I have a factory. Let me pay these people as little as possible so I can keep storing cash. Oh, I have more cash because I paid these people as little as possible. I'm going to go to the next town and just kind of keep going. Because right now they can just sit their cash somewhere, which...
Yeah, they're doing that in the Bahamas right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
but they're not buying towns and trying to amass more power. They have a lot of power nationally, but if Amazon went under, it's not like the country would be worse off. It's not like specific cities would be worse off. Seattle might be slightly worse off for 5 years, but I think it'd be better in the long run.
Yeah, I guess the reason that I'm on this train of thought is I'm playing a video game where the cap is lowered. Yeah. Where you cannot cap out at some ridiculous place. And the effects of that is more money is moving locally. And the highest that people can aspire to is actually achievable by everyone. And because of that, that really interested me. And I think that what I'm wrestling with is the idea of hoarding wealth and people's ability to do so. And so what systems are in place that allow people to do that? And how can those systems be adjusted? And this is just one of those levers, and I'm exploring that.
Yeah.
So, me. Atheopagan. I know it's just about time for the show to end. But I have a little bit of time. I'm not going to be able to hang out in the after show for a super long time.
I'm not either. I'm actually leaving in a minute or two. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, stay sexy. I'll catch you next time.
You too. Keep pantsing over me. Bye.
Atheopagan and I need to stop flirting. It's getting ridiculous. All right, let me go here. We have another person, Chris in Scotland. Oh God damn it! Can we go over a little bit, Atticus?
Sure.
This is pushing into my after show time, but I do want to get this opinion. Chris in Scotland, you're live.
Hi there. I'm sorry to call in again. I appreciate you calling in a lot recently.
How dare you have an interesting thing that I can't help but talk about? So, what's your opinion on this money suggestion?
Sorry, on you go.
No, what's up?
I was just going to say the previous caller had said that if you go to Scotland, if you go from town to town, they won't accept the money. It's just not really a thing. Sometimes if you go into England, what happens is individuals there might take exception to Scottish money, but they're kind of legally obliged to take it. But it's not sort of an issue from town to town.
Right.
Sorry.
Because the thing is you just need to get that money transferred from the bank, right? So if I have a bill payable by X bank, then I need to go to that bank to have that to have them honor that. So it's just a step, but I don't know. How does that system work in Scotland? Give me a little bit more information so I understand what's.
So it's not so much about the banks, it's more about the sort of the bank notes. For example, you get the sort of Great British Pound, but they're issued by different banks. There's the Bank of Scotland, the Bank of England, Ireland, etc.
Okay.
But they're essentially all the same currency. It's just they have slightly different markings on them. But if you go down to England, sometimes individuals in shops will take issue to the fact that it's a different sort of bank, but it's not. It's the same currency. They're legally kind of obliged to take it. It's what you would call legal tender. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it was just to make that point. It's not really a thing from town to town in Scotland. It's really only a thing if you go to England. I was also going to mention that Donald Trump is visiting Scotland, and he's not being well received.
No.
No.
How surprising! I
believe. Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I was going to say, I believe it's in one of the newspaper. It talks about his visit, and on the front cover it says mugshot, and it doesn't say the president visits Scotland. It says convicted felon visits Scotland.
Good.
And some of my colleagues have been going up to Aberdeen to have their voice heard, and unfortunately, we have an organisation in the UK called UKIP, which is it's one of these sort of groups that sort of anti-migrants and basically ethnic cleansing. And they've done a big march through Glasgow, or at least they tried to do that. Whether it was in line with Donald Trump's visit or not, I'm not sure, but we also went to Glasgow and successfully stopped them from marching through the city centre. But yeah.
Good. So. Fucking good. I'm happy to hear it. Yeah, I think I need to sit on this a little bit more, but Chris, I'm happy to hear from you. I like when you call.
Oh, thank you.
But I think I do want to see if I can get us over to the after show. Are we going to see you there?
That's all right. I'm not actually quite sure how to join it. Is it on Discord?
It is on Discord, and the link is in the description. And also, I'm sure our amazing volunteers are probably, they popped the link in the Nightbot popped the link in the chat as well. So maybe we'll see you there.
Is it like a video or is it like a chat thing?
It's a voice chat. It's just a small,
okay.
It's a smaller group of us just kind of hanging out and maybe not being as, you let your hair down a bit, I don't know. Plus, there's more of a community vibe to it. But if not, I'll catch you next week. Thank you, Chris.
Absolutely. Have an amazing night.
You too. So there was a comment that said, socialism. You're talking about socialism. Socialism is the concept that Atticus is talking about. It is a larger government system, I think. And the approach that I'm talking about is I'm exploring one that is not as large government. I can be totally wrong. I could be absolutely missing the most important part. And if that's the case, I want to know. But if anything, I want to push people to think, in the same way that, we were talking earlier about voting with your dollar. Like, let's push for consistency at least. Either way, Atticus, in the end, I absolutely agree with you, right? We can come to different conclusions about governments and about private businesses, but no matter who it is, they're not going to fucking take away who we are. And they're definitely not going to take away the community that we're building with each other. And I fucking love that. And I'm glad they're not going to take that from us, no matter what, no matter how fascistic it gets. I am who I am, you are who you are, and we are going to be there together. So,
yeah.
Fuck yeah. At least we've got
Fuck
that.
yeah.
All right. I think it's about that time. I usually read the super chats at this point. So my unfinished journey sent $2.22 and says, "Hail Eric and Atticus and hail Pride." Damn straight. Thank you. And Joshua Everett sent $7.86 and says, "A little pocket change." Thank you. Every little bit goes right back into this, right? Paying for the call-in program and everything else. Atticus, I love having you on. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. I'm so glad you had fun at Pride. And am I going to see you in the after show?
I'll be there for a bit. I've got a hard stop at noon, which sounds like we're not going to go that long.
Yeah.
I've got a date with a Costco hot dog, so.
That's not. Do they still have chicken bakes?
They do. I think so. I'm pretty sure they do.
I love those things. It's like a
just point of personal privilege. Costco's getting rid of Pepsi and reinstalling Coke, so I'm so fucking stoked.
If I give you money, would you pick up some frozen chicken bakes? I miss those.
Do they sell frozen chicken bakes?
I think they do. We'll talk.
I can check my freezer. If I have room to store them until you can pick them up, then maybe.
We'll talk. I miss those things.
Talk.
Anyway, hey everybody, thank you so much for joining. This has been Skeptic Generation. I'm Eric. Also, of course, thank you, volunteers. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. We love you. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Eric Murphy.
I'm Atticus Van Paris.
This is Skeptic Generation.
And I'm glad we had this talk.